What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Financially Free Era podcast today by SLP Wealth with myself, Megan, your host, and the lovely Sim I've got with me as well. And we're going to be chatting about some newsworthy nuggets that I've thrown into our Friday newsletter. If you're an SLP Wealth client or prospect, you are on this newsletter. It goes out every Friday. And then it's either me writing it or Travis. Sometimes Travis will jump in and write about something kind of nerdy. And every other Friday, I try to throw in some fun stuff and bring the millennial taste to it. But one of those
Bring some
things,
balance.
yes, rings a balance. One of those things I like to do is throw some like interesting newsworthy topics into the newsletter because there's stuff that like sometimes I don't even see unless I'm like looking at the news reel but they're super interesting topics. So I thought today, why not just jump into those things, kind of verbally talk through the things that have been going on in the news over the past month or so as it relates to personal finance. So thanks for joining me, Sim.
Glad as always.
Do you have a fall beverage right now? Is that what's in your coffee cup?
Unfortunately, it's just decaf because pregnant women can't have anything. But I do occasionally enjoy my decaf lattes, my vanilla. I've never been a big pumpkin spice girl. Is that like terrible?
No, I think it's more like there are people who are totally for pumpkin spice. I don't mind pumpkin spice. I like less sugar though. Like I try to put less sugar in whatever I'm getting.
It's so sweet.
It's very sweet, but I like the pumpkin spice itself. But it is season. Starbucks came out with their pumpkin spice stuff, I think, a couple weeks ago. I think there's some other places like Chick-fil-A has a pumpkin spice coffee now too. Did you know that?
No, that's so random for Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they have like a seasonal beverage this year. And then who else? I think Dunkin' Donuts. There's a bunch of places that have that pumpkin spice flavor coming out. So we're getting into fall, which I am so excited for. I love the fall. Flannels will be coming out. You'll see them in my YouTube videos here coming up soon. Don't have one on today, but will be soon.
I don't own any flannels. Is that bad?
What?
I know.
I'm gonna find some flannels in my closet and send you some.
I probably
Um,
own a flannel, just not like the plaid uniform.
Okay, so it's not plaid, but usually there's some kind of design though. There will be like it could even have like little deer on it or something, or like little. It's like a repeatable pattern though. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm sure there could be like just a plain flannel, but I don't think someone would look at you and be like, "Oh, you're wearing a flannel."
Yeah. Well, more
Oh,
power to the people who can pull off that interesting geometric shape. I think I look so weird in plaid.
I think flannel's great. I also already went to the apple orchard this past weekend. We did some apple picking with my friends' nieces and nephews. It was so much fun. And is it more expensive than buying apples at the grocery store? Debatable, because I usually buy the organic bag, which comes with probably, I'd say like 6 or 7 apples, but a peck, Peck, is like a bag for when you go to an apple orchard and pick and put apples in there. I'm pretty sure I fit probably 20 to 24 apples in that bag. So I think, and that was $13.
Plus the
So
memories. Memories
yeah, plus the
priceless.
memories. So I think the organic bag is like $5 or $6 or something for the 6 or 7 apples, and then I got
And going up.
24. Yeah, yep. So I think yeah, I guess it depends on how much your apples are at your grocery store. We're gonna be talking about grocery store drama here today too. So with that said, let's jump in. We went on a tangent there. One of the newsworthy topics that I wrote about recently was summer travel economic changes. So summer travel is shifting. Airlines are cutting late August flights. So this has already happened. I wrote this in early August. So you've probably already experienced this, but they were cutting back on late August flights, which meant fewer options and creeping fares after July's peak. So over the summer, like of course, travel is peak season. Like you're going on vacation, you're going to visit family, kids are out of school. The best deals were popping up earlier, or in the fall now where we are. Like there's going to be some better deals on flights, I think, coming up in the fall. So timing and flexibility matter a lot they matter more than ever if you're trying to plan out your travel. So if you're flying soon, you want to book quickly and you also want to track prices and be ready to rebook to snag maybe the best seat and fare if that's something that's part of your ticket like availability. But I think you had some like drama
Some
with,
travel drama.
yeah.
Never flying American Airlines again. You were right, Megan, that it was kind of slim pickings this summer as far as like flight options. I decided I thought it was a very good idea to fly across the country with two toddlers to tag along to my husband's work trip. We even brought their car seats. We installed the car seats on the plane, which is a terrible idea. We were like the last ones off the plane. We were like hanging out with the cleaning crew. Like it just
Oh,
took forever. Um, we finally got back home. We were all so excited to get home, and I'm just waiting for our car seats. We decided to check them on the way back. And they brought one of our two car seats. And I'm like, cool, I have two
we
kids.
have
I need
two.
two car seats. We have two. And it was delayed. It was on another flight. I'm like,
What?
cool story. It was just on another flight. And I'm like, whose bright idea was this? I'm like, clearly, if someone is checking a car seat, you really need that. So they gave me a loaner car seat, which was really, it was crappy. It was like whatever they had in the back. I was able to get home. I had to wait like 2 days for them to deliver my car seat to my house.
Oh no. So who was your favorite child that you kept in your normal car seat and
I know, right?
the
Which one was it? I think I put my more docile child in the new car seat.
That's pretty
One who's
funny.
more, yeah. But it kind of goes to show if you can afford to pay more for travel, little conveniences, like I wish I had paid for like a car seat rental instead of like bringing our car seats. Like I just
Mm,
wish when we got to the
hmm.
destination, I had just like paid for it. So that's something I'll definitely do next time if I'm traveling with kids, which I probably will never do again. But if you have
Yeah.
kids and you're traveling with them, think about what things can you cut out. One thing that I did do that I thought was a good idea was I only brought one checked bag, and they made everyone put their stuff in this one checked bag. So we only had to pay, the one checked bag
Mm.
fee. Everyone's stuff was able to fit in there.
That's nice. That's impressive. That's really good for because you were gone
Yeah.
for like not a short while either. And you have two
Yeah.
kids with
Everything was
you.
like rolled up and they brought extra outfits for the kids, but we made it was pretty tight. It was very tight,
Mm.
but we made it all fit.
Nice. Have you ever done one of those like vacuum seal bags where it vacuums out the air so you could fit more in your bag?
No, but I think that would be a good idea too, especially if you're trying to like, save a little bit and not pay for like extra, bag fees. Those would
Hmm.
probably be economical. You probably would only need like a couple anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, I think my sister used to travel nurse and her husband travels a lot for work. He's a HVAC engineer, so he goes and works on big like skyscraper buildings. So they travel a lot for work, and she's got it down to a science where she's got one of those like hard shell suitcases and it's got a lock on it. And then she has a vacuum seal, like a super small little vacuum thing that sucks out all the air for her clothes. And then she's got this like neat little way of putting them in her suitcase, and she flies really easily each time.
So there was actually a big debate on Reddit as far as for luggage. There's a debate on everything on Reddit. As far as should you go with the hard shell or the soft shell for your luggage? Because I was,
Oh,
buying luggage for another trip a few months ago, and I went with the soft shell because consistently what the comments were saying about the hard shell was like you think they're sturdier, but they're more likely to dent. So if you have like fragile
oh.
stuff, they're more likely to actually just like totally break, whereas the soft one can handle a little bit more impact. I don't know if that's true. Not an engineer or
Hmm.
physicist or whoever's the brains to figure that out, but the comments swayed me.
Interesting. I still have soft because I'm just using like hand-me-down luggage from my grandma. So,
Yeah.
which is purple. And my husband was not super happy when I had him take home. Remember the trip we had our SLP Wealth retreat in June. We went out to
Yes.
Durham, we got all together. I brought a bunch of like what would you call them? Like little emergency kits, not emergency kits, but it had like,
They were
you
really
know,
cute. Megan made all of us like a little like gift baggy emergency kit. It had like an emergency, had like eye mask. It was very thoughtful. And she
yeah.
made one for everybody on the team.
Yeah, eye mask, lip mask, like just like little fun stuff for your hotel room or whatever. But I brought it in a take-on bag or what's it called? A check? No, not checked bag. A
Carry
one that
on.
you could carry on. Yeah, one that you could put over your head. I brought all of that in that carry-on. And my husband came with me for a couple days, and I was just going to send him back with the suitcase. And it's purple, like very girly purple. So he was walking through the airport with his purple suitcase going back home to Atlanta by himself. And had to, yeah, I haven't had to make the investment yet into luggage, but I was wondering that because my sister has the hard top. I've always had soft top or the soft ones, so we'll see. Put in the comments if you have a really strong opinion one way or the other.
I think the hard top looks nicer, though. I will say that.
Hmm. So, last little piece tying this back to financial planning. So, if you're budgeting for travel, planning on travel, make sure that you are booking in advance or tracking prices. There's a lot of ways that you could track prices these days. I think Google has a way that you could set up alerts on like the price going up or down, which is really cool. I've used that in the past where I was 6 months out from a trip and I just wanted to kind of monitor where the price was going to go and then make the decision like the next time it dropped. So budgeting for that, buying time with flexibility. So I think sometimes too, like if you can be a little more flexible on your flight times, I know sometimes that's really hard, but if you can be more flexible with your days or with your flight times, that can help on the ticket price quite a bit. And then, planning just versus winging it. You don't want to, sometimes winging it can pay off where like maybe there's a super cheap flight for a flight that wasn't full that thought they were going to be full and all of a sudden they've got a cheap ticket available, but it's not always going to be the case. So planning is oftentimes a
Yeah.
lot better.
Also, when to be frugal versus when you should splurge a little bit more. So, like, if you don't want new luggage, just use the hand-me-downs. And if you need to
Yeah.
pay for little conveniences, sometimes that's okay too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Next up, a headline that I thought was pretty interesting. There's some grocery store gossip with my favorite, Kroger, which Kroger I think is more so in the South, but it goes by a couple different names in different states. But anyways, Kroger is in hot water right now beyond their BOGO deals. A lawsuit is tied to singer Jewel. Are you a country singer or country music listener?
For the longest time, I hated country music because I'm a city girl,
Yeah.
and I can tolerate it now.
Yeah. Jewel is she's been around for a while and she's really she's got an amazing voice. But anyways, she had a wellness festival and basically there's some kind of lawsuit between the two which could expose why longtime CEO Rodney McMullen abruptly resigned this past spring and he walked
Dun, dun,
away
dun.
with 11 million in stock and bonuses that he had banked up. The case kind of centers around claims that Kroger cut Jewel out of a very lucrative deal in favor of an exec's family connection. Uh-oh.
Ooh,
Uh-oh.
nepotism.
Raising ethics questions. And so there's a trial. So this thing is like going through the legal system, which is pretty interesting. Pretty means there's a lot of like meat to the case probably on one or the other sides or both sides. But with the trial set for 2026, investors and rivals are watching closely to see what cracks might show in Kroger's leadership culture. And so, why did I find this interesting? Well, one, I love Kroger. That is my grocery store of choice. That's my card, like the credit card that I use. I go use it at Kroger for groceries and for gas. I love their gas station points too. But this also is kind of an interesting look into like corporate ethics and leadership and the culture of a company. And then not only like, yes, of course, it affects people who work there, right? Which probably no one listening to this is working for Kroger. Maybe unless you're a pharmacist at a Kroger, but this does trickle down in a big way to like what people are going to experience as a customer, I guess you could say. It could trickle down into like pricing for, if this lawsuit goes bad and they got to pay out a lot of money, what does that do to their existing like bonus program, their coupon program, their the cost of their goods, their suppliers, that
Megan's
kind of
nervous, you
thing.
guys.
I am nervous.
Megan's grocery bill might be going up.
Right. But I thought this was a pretty interesting case. But any thoughts on that?
Costco welcomes you with open arms.
So, okay, Costco, I understand Costco. I understand that you could buy things at bulk for bulk pricing, which is great. I just don't have the I guess I need to think more creatively about like what I would buy in bulk because right now it is just me and my husband. And so we don't eat a ton. Like I couldn't go get one of those giant strawberry clams, or one of those big like meat things without freezing a lot of stuff at the end of the day. But I know you've got a bigger family. So do you find Costco to be like super helpful for kind of just racking up on some of those things and freezing stuff?
For yeah, for some things, yes. And you guys may remember during COVID, those stimulus checks that a bunch of us received, I used mine to purchase a deep freezer because we were
Mm,
like in this global pandemic. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to be going out very often to get groceries. So we invested in a really big deep freezer. It was bigger than I thought. We didn't really measure it, which was a mistake. So it was bigger than we thought. It's a tall deep freezer, not one of those like
oh,
chest ones in
okay.
your garage. Yeah, it's literally my husband's office. It's random,
Oh,
random deep freezer. But yeah, we'll like stock up on meat and like non-perishables, but also with toddlers, berries are very economical to get there, just like the
yeah.
bulk of berries, because kids will eat like those, all the parents listening, those raspberries. They got two
Hmm.
kids, they'll go through one pack a day of
Yeah,
organic
I have heard
raspberries,
that.
one a day. So I'm like, can I have some, please? I'll ask my kids to feed me, like, can you give mama a berry? And they'll look at me like they understand what I'm asking. They'll just put it in their own mouth.
They're like, no,
So,
no
no, I'm not
thanks.
going to share. Yeah, but it doesn't make sense for everyone because you also have to think about like your space consideration and you do pay
Hmm.
for the membership, but you also get a little bit cash back at the end of the year. You get a discount on gas. So it can make sense for some people, just kind of price it out. What's funny is we got the membership right before my twins were born for the diapers. I was like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, the diapers are such a good deal. My kids hated those diapers and I ended up hating those diapers. So I didn't even buy diapers from them anymore. I ended up going with
Oh,
Millie Moon from
really?
Target. Yes.
Okay,
They're not a
gotcha.
sponsor of this show, but I love Millie Moon, FYI.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think at some point I will maybe be a Costco hype girl, but for now I'm still a Kroger hype girl. I'm hoping, and of course, like if this lawsuit really does come out to where like there was some, what is that word that you used? Uh,
Nepotism.
yeah, if there was some nepotism or some, if there really was some like really bad culture dynamics going on with some of the leadership, and then enough so to where the CEO is resigning, like that does say something that like something was up. Somebody really shined a flashlight on something, and he said, "All right, I'm out." And it'll be interesting to see what unfolds here, but
From a financial planning perspective, good case study for always do your estate planning. I don't know how much, is this all Kroger that's going to be on the hook? Is it going to be the CEO personally that's on the
personally,
hook for
yeah.
any? Yeah, and I mean 11 million in stock and bonuses. I mean, you don't need to have 11 million in stock and bonuses to worry about estate planning. Like if you have a business and you're exposed to any liability, you need to do some estate planning. So,
Hmm.
how do you structure your business? How do you title your assets? What entities are your assets held in? All of that matters.
Hmm. Yep. This is unrelated to this newsworthy nugget, but might be something I put in my Friday update soon. But did you hear about the case that just settled against a physician for a birth trauma situation? Yeah, there was a case, and I know this because I was my friend's sister-in-law is a physician, and they were the kids, their nieces and nephews were who we went to the apple orchard with this weekend, and so they were talking about this case. But a Utah judge awarded 951 million to the family of Azalea McMichael, a 5-year-old who suffered permanent brain damage from neglect during or negligent care, I should say, during her 2019 birth. It was a record-breaking verdict, the largest in Utah history and one of the highest nationwide, stemmed from allegations that newly trained nurses gave excessive Pitocin while on call, while an on-call doctor slept nearby. So Pitocin, that's supposed to speed up like
Like
your
induced
delivery.
labor.
Yeah, induce labor. And I guess the on-call doctor was nearby, but not in the room. And then after a delayed C-section, Azalea was born with severe complications consistent with oxygen deprivation, requiring intensive treatment. So this was a pretty big deal because
Well,
the amount was wild, like it was really high, and then What were you going to say?
Also, it's very rare for anyone to be like actually found guilty of malpractice in the first place. So like that's
Yes.
already exceedingly rare. And then the payouts are usually not that large. Like you said, 951 million. I'm like, dang, like that's kind of unheard of. I don't even know that there's any malpractice coverage that would cover that. I mean,
Yes.
I don't even know how that would work.
That's exactly what we talked about. And so the award was intended to cover Azalea's lifelong care. Steward Healthcare, the hospital's parent company, has already filed for bankruptcy, raising doubts about how much the family will actually be able to collect. So it's they sued the hospital, I guess you could say, not the physician personally.
It's
Yeah,
almost
that
like they were trying to like make an example out of this case.
yes, but this that when you're talking about estate planning, like being personally liable, because we work with a lot of medical professionals. You used to work with a lot of physicians.
Mhm.
Having like that proper protection for you personally, if you were to ever be, I think we're probably preaching to the choir when it comes to this stuff. Like you'll have your medical malpractice insurance usually provided by the hospital that you're working at, or you'll be purchasing your own. So you don't want to sleep on making sure that it's good coverage because things like this can happen. Accidents can happen. And so you want to make sure you're protecting yourself, protecting your own finances. This is, is it totally related to this Kroger story? Not really, but we were talking about estate planning and like protecting your finances. So that's maybe another case that kind of piqued my mind when you were talking about that.
Yeah, for physicians who are like in more litigious specialties, which would include OB/GYN, mostly OB, the OB part of it. I've had people in the past who would like title certain assets like in their spouse's name completely, so it wasn't even
Hmm.
like in their name. Of course, you have to kind of it's a different risk, right? Like, what if your spouse leaves you and then they just take that asset? So
Right.
it kind of depends on the laws of your state. But there's a lot of ways to do it. If you live in a state that offers tenancy by the entirety, I am a big fan of that form of titling because it would take both people on that account to be sued to have that
Hmm.
asset taken from you. It's not 50-50, it's 100-100. There's different types of trusts that you can set up. Some of them are irrevocable, which may be a downside, but there are things that you can do. You're not like helpless and totally exposed to having all of your assets be potentially taken from you.
Yeah. I would love to get an estate planning attorney on the pod at some point soon so we could chat through some of these things more in detail. Because estate planning it touches financial planning, of course, but your financial planner is not going to be writing up these estate planning documents. They can make some recommendations on how you should title your accounts and making sure you have beneficiaries on your accounts, which is kind of free estate planning. But when it comes to writing up these documents, you really want a qualified estate planning attorney in the state that you live in because every state has different laws, different rules. But that's a big piece of protecting like your finances. So it kind of falls in the bucket of risk management in a way, and then legacy
Yeah.
planning in a way. Yeah. All
Just don't
right,
be the
moving
Kroger
on.
CEO. Moral of the
Yeah,
story. Yep, moving on.
moving on. Next newsworthy topic I saw was about Covered California, the premium hike that they're expecting. So, health insurance premiums on Covered California are set to jump about 10.3% in 2026. So, coming up next year. This is a big increase since 2018. And this is because there's a lot of federal subsidies that are expiring. And then there's rising healthcare costs, of course, which means that many families could face a lot higher bills when it comes to paying for health insurance. And some may even have to drop coverage altogether. So, unless Congress acts, there's still some time for there to be some changes here. Out of pocket costs will climb, and the state's limited support isn't really going to help close the gap anymore like it had been in the past. So, this is something that could mean that we need a higher emergency fund in California. If you're out in California let's talk about you as a patient, having higher emergency savings to help cover like deductibles or things that this might impact like insurance in general for you. And then if you're a provider, we've been also seeing this on the other side when it comes to providers, physicians, dentists, where these expiring subsidies are going to be affecting how the practice or how the hospital is going to be getting paid, right, for services. So that might affect your pay and your caseload at the end of the day, which affects your income. So it affects both sides. It's not just like the patient side, it's also the practitioner side as well.
Yeah, we've been seeing that trend, not just in California, but nationwide. Just overall reimbursements are on the decline.
hmm So there are folks that are going more cash pay. I know in the dental space, there's a lot of practice owners that are going more towards cash pay versus like insurance or leaning more on
Yeah, they've
insurance.
been
They're
calling
doing,
it fee for service.
yeah, fee for service. Um, I know hospital systems are a little trickier there, but some folks, some physicians that go out on their own for their practice area, they could also be making those same decisions when it comes to having just a more consistent, less, because you have less control when you're waiting on payouts from insurance companies. You have less control over what the payout rate is going to be, what the timing is, how long it's going to take you to get paid. And so the cash pay system or pay as you go system could bring a little bit more like security. I don't want to say security necessarily, but could bring
It
a
does
little
bring
bit
some
more,
certainty.
yeah, maybe some more certainty into the equation when it comes to getting paid for your services. So, and you're who sets the prices at that point. So the last kind of broader lesson for this newsworthy nugget is just healthcare inflation is very real. It's persistent, and it is a retirement planning risk that we do factor into our planning. Inflation in general, we factor into our planning when we're running numbers on how much you're going to need to have in your retirement years to live off of, from what you're saving, what assets you're going to have in the future. We have to be factoring in inflation, but healthcare inflation, especially if it's outpacing like normal inflation, we have to take that into account too, because that's going to be an expense that is not going to go away, as you get older. We don't get healthier generally as we get older.
You
So,
don't tend to, no. So that's where an HSA can make sense too. Had to do an HSA plug.
yep. HSAs, we love them. Let's talk about something a little more fun. Let's talk about the Disney and Hulu merger, the Disney Plus and Hulu merger.
Yeah, so all the parents out there, moms, I'm hoping that this results in some kind of cost savings to our subscriptions. I definitely have a subscription to both. I did like the bundle. I'm curious, Megan, do you think that they're just going to keep the pricing the same?
Gosh, that's a great question. And I do wonder because, so kind of backstory, Disney is officially going to merge with Hulu, into Disney Plus in 2026. So this upcoming year, they're going to create a single app expected to save a lot, 3 billion in costs, which makes sense. Like if you're merging things, you're not having two platforms, two different customer service lines, two different everything. You're merging everything. So there's going to be some consolidated costs. But the move is going to strengthen Disney's streaming business, which is already projecting 1.3 billion in profit. Quite nice. That's a nice profit there. While
A pretty good
they're
margin.
yeah, and interestingly, they're expanding their sports content with the new NFL and WWE deals that they're setting up. I know there's some random games that my husband will be like, "Oh, I gotta sign on to Disney Plus to watch this thing," and I'm like, "What? On Disney Plus? You're gonna be watching that game?" But they're
It is a
like,
little bit random.
yeah, their sports is definitely under that umbrella now. So the pricing details are unclear right now. They haven't talked about what's going to happen to like our pricing models, right? Down at the bottom. But executives expect the integration to boost personalization, engagement, and ad revenue, which hopefully that means they're going to trickle down some savings to customers. So we'll see.
That means you have to pay extra if you don't want the ads.
Yeah, exactly.
So probably for most of it, my guess would be no meaningful cost savings for many of us.
Probably not. We'll see. It does seem like it would be nice to not, from a simplicity perspective, having less apps to sign into. How many times do you forget your password to like Hulu
Oh
or
my
Disney
gosh.
Plus? All the time.
And it's the worst because I do like the long passwords too for security. Oh, I have a funny story. I was going through Monarch Money, which we use for cash flow planning, and I saw some charges I did not recognize. And this was several weeks after like someone tried to hack one of my accounts. So I thought, oh, of course, these are fraudulent charges. Someone's still trying to hack me. So took forever to try to reach someone at Roku. It was three different subscriptions, free trials. And I'm
Oh,
like, yeah, these are all fake. So got them canceled, changed passwords, all of that. And then of course I log on to Roku And by coincidence, I happened to see an order those three apps, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did the kids do this? Like, did they grab the remote and click something? So I'm not convinced that I'm not sure that the charges were fraudulent. I did get a new credit card just to play it safe, which broke my heart. I'm one of those weirdos that like I memorize my credit card numbers so I can like
Yeah.
just have to type something in. So I'm like, dang it, I have to like learn a whole new card number now. But
Yeah.
always pays to look at your charges. And yes, it would be nice to have one less subscription to think about.
Maybe password protect your remotes or your accounts too from kiddos.
Oh yeah, we just added a pin. So now there's no
Hmm.
purchases without the pin number.
There you go. Yeah. That's good. All right, so that's kind of an interesting story. Next up, I've got two more stories and then we'll close things out. Another newsworthy nugget, which I think folks have probably heard about already, is that there could be some alternative assets allowed in 401ks. So, a new executive order from President Trump said basically let me start this over. A new executive order from President Trump could allow our alternative assets like real estate, crypto, private equity, inside 401k plans, which is not the norm. Supporters say it opens access to higher return opportunities, while critics warn it does add a lot of layers of risk, right? Let's be real. Fees and then potential lawsuits. Major players like BlackRock are preparing products, but rollout is going to be pretty slow and legally contested, I'm sure. But how do you feel about this when it comes to allowing these types of assets in 401ks? Because I could see both sides, like the opportunity for higher returns, but it does like what is the saying? Like higher return, or what is it? Higher risk, higher return.
Yeah, but that's not even how I think about it. I think about it as like how much, like, to what extent do we want to do consumer protection versus just letting people have autonomy over their own accounts? Like in the
Hmm.
past, I've really loved there's like in some 401ks, you have like a self-directed brokerage option where you within the 401k, you can open that like almost like a separate account and then invest in whatever you want. And you're not just limited to the options that your 401k provider offers. So like I
Hmm.
think that's cool. I think in general, I'm in favor of just letting people have the autonomy to choose. And just because you can choose doesn't mean that you should. Um, I would never tell someone to do these like alternative assets as far as their 401k strategy, but if someone wants to do that, I don't see why they shouldn't be able to. Granted,
Hmm.
I always question, who does this change benefit? Like, I don't think they're doing it just to help consumers. I'm sure that,
Yeah.
with all those business connections, there's some kind of kickbacks or something. Like it's not, I don't think it's for the consumer, but like I don't hate it. I'm not mad about it.
Hmm.
I don't think consumers necessarily should do it, but I think it's a step towards just having these retirement accounts to be more, just giving people more freedom, I guess, with what they want to do with them.
Hmm. I like the options, and I think 401k companies already do a decent job of education, like where they have, a customer service line or like a team for the employer account where an employee could call and ask educational questions about their account. They're not going to tell you what to invest in either because they're not your personal financial planner or advisor, but they can give you some education on, okay, well, if you're investing in crypto, here's what that means. This is what you're investing in compared to like a target date fund or something like that. So as long as I think the options are good. I love options in financial planning, of course. I think the education backbone needs to be there though. Like
Yeah.
you know, just like it is
Which
for
for
401ks anyways.
and for a 401k would have to be a 401k is an ERISA plan. So it's subject to a lot of regulation, like whatever funds you're invested in. You've probably seen this if you have a 401k, or you might get like a mailing, it's like a big prospectus, but you have to get
Hmm.
a prospectus for each fund. So it's like all of the disclosures and, you should read them. They throw stuff in there. So it's good to read them. But I think most people don't.
Hmm. Yeah. So that could be interesting. This could unfold. I think it would unfold slowly. Like it's not going to be here overnight, but this is something that's being talked about and then could potentially affect folks. Anybody with a 401k, right? Depending on if their plan, either if they're allowed to opt into this or not, it could be allowing some additional investment options that we could be considering.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing on this newsworthy nugget update. There's some homeowner scams going around that I think folks are trying to make other people aware of. And I've got kind of a personal experience in our neighborhood. But basically, this article was about someone who was patio power washing. It was a sorry, patio power wash. Say that 5 times fast. Patio power wash pitch turned super aggressive towards a homeowner. Somebody basically was knocking on the door saying, "Hey, we do power washing. It's going to cost $50. Blah blah blah." And basically the scam. What happens is in this instance, it was starting cheap, so at the $50 mark, and then basically the homeowner gets pressured into inflated charges like, oh, well, we already started. Your patio is a lot bigger than we thought, so it's going to be $200 now instead of 50. So some crews would begin work uninvited before the homeowner said, yeah, go ahead, sure, before a contract is signed, before anything, and used tactics that exploited the sunk cost fallacy. So sunk cost fallacy, that's kind of like a financial behavioral term that we use where if you're already in something, if you already put money down on something, or if you've already invested time or energy into something, it's less likely for you to change your mind and pull yourself out of it, right? Is that the best way to say that? Is that how you would say sunk cost
Yeah, some
fallacy?
people have, it's like you've already invested so much that it's painful to walk away from it.
Yeah. And so they were trying, like, in a way, that's what these folks were doing in this neighborhood. They were trying to kind of lean on, like, oh, well, we already started the job. Like, you're already halfway in. Like, we can't, and rule followers would be like, oh my gosh, well, they've already started. Like, I have to pay them for a service. Like, now they're saying it's a different price, though. That's not what I agreed to. So it's like pushing you towards that decision that you didn't even make in the first place. You were kind of
Yeah, it's
forced in
like
that
what was in the
decision.
contract? What was in the contract that you signed?
Yep. And then this example, there was no contract. It was just somebody knocking on the door. So this is like one of many scams similar to this when it comes to homeowners. In our neighborhood, it wasn't power washing, it was pine straw. And so similar idea, this guy would pull up with a couple guys in the back of his truck, big trailer on the back with a bunch of pine straw, and guys would jump off the truck, start laying out pine straw in your yard, and the guy who was driving the truck will go up to the front door, knock on the door, like, "Hey, we're here to put down pine straw. It's going to be XYZ amount." And the homeowner's like, "Wait a second, I didn't like purchase this. I didn't call you. What are you doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we're already putting it down." So it's kind of the same thought process. It's like we're already doing the work, making you feel like you have to still go along with their ploy. And I'm sure they could do
That's
this in a lot of
trespassing.
different. Yeah, it's trespassing. There's a lot of things that they could do this with, I'm sure, like pine straw, mulch, fertilizer for your grass. Like I'm sure there's a lot of things that this can happen with. So you just want to be aware that this is a common scam that's happening around the nation. I'm in Georgia. This case, I think, was in Chicago, I believe. So different parts of the world, or sorry, different parts of the U.S. But kind of what experts would advise is stand firm, refuse unsolicited offers because this is an unsolicited offer. They came to your porch, and made you act like you made the decision. And
I
you
would just like
can.
lie. Is that bad? I'm like, I'm okay with lying to like criminals, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, my HOA hasn't approved this. Even if you're not in an HOA, just say it anyway. Like, my HOA doesn't allow this.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can call authorities if they're very pushy and they're not leaving because like you were saying, like it is trespassing at the end of the day if they weren't welcomed by you, they weren't called by you. So this is just something that you want to watch out for because they prey on urgency. So these types of scammers, they prey on urgency. They prey on pressure. Like they put on a lot of pressure. And then they prey on you being so polite and so kind. And sometimes you just have to not be so polite and kind.
I feel like
So,
anytime there's a high pressure situation, it usually feels like manufactured to me. A great example of that is when you're buying a car and they sit
oh,
down with you and they're like, okay, I just talked to my manager and we have this deal and we can only offer it to you today. In the back of my mind, I'm like, you're going to offer me the same deal tomorrow. So um, I never take the pressure. Just, do what's best for you and your wallet.
yeah. hmm So, a quick recap of these lessons we learned today from these newsworthy nuggets. Travel. So, first and foremost, plan early and stay pretty flexible, but pay for the conveniences that are really important to you, like Sim said. Grocery executive drama. Culture matters for investors, and bad culture can trickle down into like affecting the business, which is hopefully not what I'm going to have to go through here with my favorite grocery store. Health insurance, there's inflation risk for literally all households. So inflation risk is something we plan for when it comes to your financial plan. Disney Plus and the Hulu merger consolidation can impact pricing for better, for worse. We'll find out. Hopefully it's for better with the consolidation of those expenses and that what was it? Billions of savings. 1.3 billion in profits. Come on. Disperse that to the customers. Alternative assets and 401ks, we're going to have to balance the risk versus reward when it comes to if this is implemented in the future. This was, again, an executive order, so we'll see. There's going to be some lawsuits potentially that slow this down. And then lastly, watch out for scams as a homeowner. Stand firm, whether you're at your door or even, if you're looking at your portfolio, you're talking to an investment manager or you're talking to a financial professional of some kind and you feel pressured, if you feel like there's a sense of urgency to do something that you feel like you should have more time to make a decision on, like stand firm, and sometimes you don't have to be so nice.
Yeah.
Here's a fun closing line from my good old friend ChatGPT. News moves fast, but money lessons stick. Stay curious, stay protected, and stay financially free. Wow, that was so good.
That's so deep. Brought a tear to my eye. I feel like you should name ChatGPT like my good friend Fred.
Yeah,
Just give
my
him like
good
a real
friend
human name.
Fred. Yep. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, Sim, and chatting about some interesting headlines.
This was fun as always. You know me, I love to chat about these things, all the drama. I'm here for it.
You guys have a lovely weekend coming up. Fall is in the air, guys. It's here. You get excited. I hope y'all have a lovely weekend, and we will catch you on the next one.
Are you ready to unlock financial freedom faster with SLP Wealth? Get high-quality, affordable student loan-aware financial planning and get the best deal for it anywhere that you're going to find working with your own dedicated SLP Wealth financial planner that is able to give you the best integrated advice across financial planning, investments, and tax, along with all the student loan hacks that you know you need and that you know impact all other areas of your financial planning. The deal you're going to find here is special just for podcast listeners. If you go to promo.slpwealth.com, you can sign up with a great discount off your first month. That's promo.slpwealth.com.